Raider Nation, welcome to the latest Raider Talk podcast. This is Mr. Monticelli, your friendly neighborhood assistant principal. We've been doing these Raider Talk podcasts for the last few years, very simply as a way to build community, get to know each other, one story at a time. So I'm very excited about this conversation. I know everybody on top of their mind is COVID. What is school going to look like in the next few weeks? We're recording this on August 4th, so the big question in everybody's mind and all the planning night and day is going into what does school look like. But I wanted to bring a few people together here and have a conversation that's an important conversation that kind of leads into the bigger conversation. But, just giving advice on transitions. Transitions are hard from one building to the next. Any transition to a new setting or social culture is challenging. So we have two students with us today, and my guest host today is Mrs. Kyle. Our goal here is that right now we have a sophomore that's going to join us in our conversation and an incoming senior, and they can share kind of two perspectives, both like the Minerva transition, any freshmen coming into the building, and any sophomores coming into the high school building. Just general advice for those folks as they work through not only the stressors of the COVID pandemic, but also starting into a new building. So there's a lot on people's minds, and we want to try to just have a real conversation and try to help people out as much as possible. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Kyle. Mrs. Kyle, I want to say hello.
Thanks, Mr. Monticelli. Good afternoon, Raider Nation. It's Mrs. Kyle. I'm coming to you from my office at Fairport High School. Those of you who are coming into 9th grade, you will also see me in Minerva DeLand School. I'm the assistant principal over there as well. So welcome to Raider Nation. We are joined by Connor and Morgan. And as a very first opening question, we're going to ask them who they would like to have dinner with, alive or dead, could be anybody. Why did they pick that person, and what are they eating? So Morgan, let's start with you.
Okay. I would probably say Billie Eilish because I like her music. And I relate to her music a lot. And I would probably eat spaghetti.
Homemade spaghetti or purchased spaghetti?
Homemade.
With homemade sauce or jar sauce?
Jar sauce.
Stop it. Really?
Yeah.
What kind of jar sauce?
I don't know what kind I have, but it's really good.
Well, us Italian people, we make our own sauce, all right, for starters. But if I have to purchase sauce, I go with Rayo's. It's at Wegmans. It's like $8 a jar, though. Very expensive.
Oh.
Yeah. Connor.
If I were to pick one person, you said alive or dead, right?
Yep.
If I were to pick one person, I would pick Juice WRLD, the artist Juice WRLD, because I just really always looked up to him, and I connected with his music, and I think he would just be a cool dude to hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
And I would eat. I don't know what I would eat. Maybe a nice steak.
How do you like your steak done?
Medium rare.
Oh, wow. All right. So it's on the grill for a second.
Yeah.
What side with your steak? Baked potato, rice?
Oh, baked potato.
Mashed potato.
Or mashed potato, yeah.
Mashed potatoes, homemade or out of a box?
Homemade, for sure.
Nice. I like it. Very good. Awesome.
Carol, how about you?
I would have dinner with Robin Williams because I find him hilarious, and he makes 3 movies that are in my top 5 of all time. So Robin Williams, and I would have. Let me see here. I would pick a bunch of things. I would do chicken French, homemade by my mother, my grandmother's mashed potatoes, and my stepmom's steamed broccoli. I don't know what she does to it, but it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. And Mr. Monticelli, you should have to answer this question as well.
I was trying to you saw I was trying to deflect and avoid there, but you picked up on it. So to your credit. That's a tough one. I'm a history nerd, so I would have to go back into history. And I look at all the different interesting time periods of American history. There's so many of them, but I'd probably go Ben Franklin. You know, the revolutionary time period was fascinating to me. The fact that he had all these amazing leaders during one time. And I fully, when I say that, I know there's a lot of complex, imperfect people with regards to the institution of slavery and racism at the time. But out of all those people, I think the more I learned about Ben Franklin, he was really fascinating. Besides his scientific intellect with all his inventions, but also his relationships, and he just seemed like an interesting guy to talk to. For dinner, I would love. I like crab legs. I love king crab legs. I don't need a side. I just need about I don't know,
Bucket of them.
9 or 10 giant king crab legs with a lot of butter.
Nice.
Well, that's good stuff. You know, those simple questions are huge. You know, like I said, these podcasts are really simply an effort to build relationships and build community. So people often wonder and say, how do you do that in a hybrid world or a virtual world? You simply create space and time to ask these questions and get to know people. So I appreciate Mrs. Kyle, you asking that question and spending time just getting to know one another. I think that's all of our challenges, both students. How do you do that with your friends and your fellow students in this hybrid / virtual world, partially in person, partially at home? And for our teachers, how do we build that in our classrooms, in our schools for all staff? So I appreciate that. Next question is another general one. You know, how are you doing this summer? I know it's really weird to say the least for everybody, and some people have been directly impacted, you know, by this virus, their family and so forth. So that's the first question, and that I ask anybody. You know, Morgan and Connor, how are you doing this summer?
I'm doing okay. I usually have lacrosse all summer long and all throughout school in the spring, but now that we didn't have that, it was very weird, I guess.
Yeah.
But I got somewhat used to it. I'm still not used to wearing masks, but we now have lacrosse more, but hanging out with friends was hard in the beginning, but now that we were unquarantined, now we're fine.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're getting back to a little bit of normalcy, it sounds like, right? One step at a time.
Yeah.
Good.
It's starting to feel somewhat normal.
Good. Connor, how about you?
I would say like all the family time that we've had was good for the most part, but it gets a lot. Like just being with your family every day. I just wish it was easier to see friends like during the beginning of this stuff and be more social. More opportunities to go out and be with friends. And then with my volleyball season being cut off, that was hard because that was going to be my last year at travel. So I'll never play travel again. And then with the spring volleyball getting pushed back already, I still don't know what's going to happen with that. So if anything happens to that, that'll be bad because that's my really last time playing volleyball.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people can empathize with all the things you just said, you know, like losing some of the things that you planned on, that you expected. Family time is great, but sometimes too much family time is not great. And I'm glad to hear that. I think all of us are a little bit starting to phase, kind of like it's kind of like the New York phasing in of, you know, phase 1, phase 2. Every family is kind of phasing back into some normalcy to a certain degree. So glad to hear some of that's happening on your end. I would ask Ms. Kyle the same thing, but we talk like multiple times a day. So I want to get into, you know, the purpose of why we're here is, you know, some advice. I'll have Mrs. Kyle take over and ask the transition questions with Morgan in relation to Minerva DeLand first.
So Morgan, what was your like initial perception of Minerva before you got there? Like, were you
At first,
scared of anything or what?
At first, I heard a lot of rumors, like, about just how weird it was coming together with JP. And I wasn't as nervous because I had friend groups in both schools. Like in Martha, I had friends, and in JP, I had friends. So it wasn't that hard on the friend part, but like being together with everyone and not knowing as many people as you did in Martha, it was weird. But other than that, it was good. When I first like came in, all the teachers were good. Like I started getting closer with them more than like Martha Brown. I was really close to the teachers, and so it was kind of hard coming over and not seeing those same teachers every day. But when I first came, it was welcomed. I was welcomed.
Awesome. Very good. How did you feel? Like, did you feel that you needed to stick with like your Martha Brown buds because you had been to school together, or were you like ready to start meeting new people?
Probably at first, like the first couple of weeks, I stayed with most of my Martha Brown friends. But as we got comfortable, I feel like everyone started to spread out. Like there were more friend groups becoming, and we all got used to each other. So I think that was good.
Yeah. I think it's always like fun for me to see that too, because you can kind of tell like who went to what middle school, right? Especially on days that you guys wear like your middle school t-shirts. It makes it real obvious and helpful. But I think by like mid-October is where you start to see like the tables change in the cafeteria. Kids start to sit with other people. And I know, a few of your classmates came in and they were like, I've made so many more friends that I had either not seen since like I was at Brooks Hill or that I've never met before. So they really loved about it. What about the academics? So how did that shift for you?
The academics were challenging. Yeah. I definitely had some hard times in some classes, but it got better over time. We could always go in for help during lunch periods or like go in and see one of our math teachers and talk to them about problems that we needed with help at homework or something, or like study before a test. So I always knew that you could go in during lunch and see them, and that was probably the best because we couldn't really do that in Martha. There weren't really times where we could go in and be like, I need help with this problem. Like we could, but it just wasn't as recent as it did in Minerva. So that was good.
Yeah. So for those of you who are listening, Morgan's talking about the Math Assistance Center that's open during all lunch periods that's staffed by a math teacher. So you can take your lunch with you if you like, and you can take your math homework or math review sheet. What color sheets are they in ninth grade? Morgan, your review sheet.
What'd you say?
Was it a blue sheet?
Yeah, it was a blue sheet. We
Take the blue sheet right down to the assistant center and get some help with the math teacher. So that's available during lunch periods. What about like the writing? Do you think your writing changed over the course of ninth grade? Did your papers get longer?
Honestly, not really. Like they were still the same, but yeah, some were longer, but it's easy, I guess. I don't know.
It was manageable.
Yeah.
Good.
I thought it was gonna be a lot harder. Like the homework wasn't as bad as people made it out to seem. They were like, oh, it's gonna be 3 hours of work every single night. No, it really wasn't that bad. It was only like 25 or 30 minutes to an hour. Like it wasn't that bad.
Awesome. And how did you manage like some of the normal things that go on in ninth grade? Like, ninth grade, everybody is starting to pay a little bit more attention to social media and things like that. So how did you deal with some of those rough patches, like with your friend group or just with some other kind of like school drama? Like, how did you manage all of those? Because you did manage them very well.
Thank you. I don't know. We just all ended up working through it. Like we could talk to the guidance counselors. Like they were always inviting. You could, it was just a lot harder because people from JP came in, so they weren't like used to us, I guess. And we were a very different breed from JP compared to Martha Brown. But the drama was good.
Like you got through it good is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't really know how to break can answer that.
I hear you. You did fine. You did fine.
It's not an easy one to answer, Morgan. We appreciate your process
Yeah.
thinking about it. Do you have any advice? So do you have advice for incoming freshmen coming in next year?
Incoming freshmen, I feel like you just have to have fun with it. If I didn't have my friends by my side, it would definitely been a more rough year than it was. But if you just stick with your friends and always be nice to teachers, I always try and make a good relationship with them before school actually starts, I guess. But I don't know, just always be willing to do something, be outgoing. I don't know, just be happy during the year.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's simple, but it's powerful. What the theme that when you were talking, when I was listening, was put yourself out there, both with your teachers, with your current friends, and maybe some new people that you haven't met before. You have to put yourself out there.
Definitely meet new people. I met so many new people this year.
Yeah. And it's a scary thing, really. I talk a lot with my daughter about this, is you got to take a risk. Anytime you meet somebody, or even if you walk over to a social group and try to enter into a conversation, you're taking a small risk, right? Like you're taking a risk that maybe you get rejected, maybe they don't think you're cool, whatever. But the reward is worth the risk, right? So whenever you're thinking, oh, that could go bad, you really got to think about, well, when it goes good, it's pretty good. So it's really trying to weigh out in your own mind the reward is the risk. So I appreciate your perspective on that. I'm going to transition to Connor here. So Connor's a big time senior, big dog, big cat.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Cool for school. I'm just teasing you a little bit. You can remember back to 2 years ago, coming into the big house, Fairport High School. What's your reflection on what that transition was like, and then the advice you would give incoming sophomores?
Well, when I was coming from Minerva to the high school, I didn't like the idea of having all the upperclassmen there that I didn't really know. I really just wanted to stay isolated in my own friend group and not really go outside my comfort zone. But when I got there, I changed to go into it with an open mind and to just be yourself, and whoever likes you, and don't let other people determine what you think. I don't know. Just go into it with an open mind and hope for the best.
That's well said. I think so often, not just teenagers, but adults do this too. Sometimes you change your approach based on who you're around, because you want to fit in. Everybody has that emotional want or need to fit in, to be a sense of belonging, right? But that's cool the way you said that. Be yourself. You're not going to see eye to eye with everybody, but stay true to yourself, but also take a risk and put yourself out there. You're saying the same things in different ways. That Morgan did, that you can't just stay in your comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone, take a risk, meet new people. It's all about relationships, right? Both peer and adults, so you're really, sorry, go ahead.
If you don't take risk in high school, it's not going to be the fun time that everybody makes it out to be. You got to put yourself out there.
For sure. Yeah. I would say with adults too, build those connections, teachers, counselors, administrators, coaches, club advisors, right? So you're both into sports, right? Which is huge. I think you both referenced that. What would you advise to somebody that maybe isn't super athletic? What can they do to get involved after school?
There are a lot of cool clubs that you could get into. Whatever your interests are, there's clubs for a lot of the other things other than sports. So I think if people have interests that are with the clubs, they can join those and be in those friend groups also.
For sure, 100%. So I know people are wondering, is there going to be sports? Is there going to be clubs? We don't know what's going to be allowed as far as sports and timing and time frames right now. It's kind of see how everything plays out here in the next few weeks. But we do know we are committed to staying connected between our coaches and our athletes and our advisors, our club advisors, and our students that are in the club. So if you were in a club last year, whatever, if you were a student ambassador last year, or you were on the robotics team or whatever, we're still going to do those things. All right. It might look different. It might be different. The competitions might be different, but we are still going to be connected with one another in that regard. So please rest assured about that. And also, to Connor's point, we have over 30 clubs. So one of the beauties of Fairport High School is that there's something for everybody. And whatever your interests are, however you identify, whatever, there's a clique, there's a group, there's other people that think different or similar to you. So, you just got to keep putting yourself out there, like Morgan and Connor are saying, and keep talking to people and talk to your counselor, talk to your teachers, and they'll help point you in the right direction. It's great stuff, simple, but the simple stuff is the most powerful stuff. So I'm going to just kind of open the floor a little bit. I know Mrs. Kyle and I, every administrator in New York State and the country is getting peppered with questions from parents and from students about what school is going to look like. And rightfully so, because we're all wondering the same thing. We don't have all the answers right now, but if you could ask some questions, do you have any questions that we might be able to answer?
How do you think the normal school day is going to look?
Yeah, that's one that we can answer. Mrs. Kyle, feel free to jump in. Really right now we're in families have an option. You can either choose a hybrid schedule or a full virtual schedule. Okay, the hybrid schedule is essentially going to be 2 days out of the week you're in school in person with half of the student population, and 3 days out of the week you're home coming into school virtually and learning virtually. And then the full virtual option would be you're home every day, all day, and you're getting your instruction through that. We're working on both of those models, the fine details of each and what exactly they're going to look like. But the hybrid schedule is going to be, you're going to follow your regular schedule, right? Same time, but some days you're in the building and some days you're at home. Yeah. So we're working through the fine details, but that's big picture what it's going to look like.
Yeah. So same time, same time days, same times and end times.
Exactly. We would love to have a later start time, and I think that would help a lot of people. But it's and we tried to do that, but because of busing schedules, it's impossible to do that. And also keep in mind the schedules we're creating have to be fluid in the sense that if the governor says next week, oh, we're going to be full in person, then we have to be able to go from hybrid to full in person, regular school. Or if he says we're going to go full virtual for the next whatever month and then reassess, then we have to be able to go in and out of really 3 different models. So we would all love to have everybody sleep in a little bit, including ourselves, but it's not feasible because of logistics right now.
Yeah.
What would happen if someone got COVID? What would happen then and we were all in school?
Yeah. Sorry, Mrs. Kaya, want to jump in?
So if I understand this correctly, and Mr. Monticelli, feel free to correct me, it would be very similar to how it's going in the community. So the health department would jump in and they would do contact tracing, and they would figure out exactly who that student came in contact with. They would reach out and talk to the student's parents, right? They would probably work with your physician to make sure that you go get tested. And then we would go from there. But in terms of school communication, we would never say, hey, this student tested positive, they're in this cohort, they're in this building, right? So we like to protect your medical information. We like to protect your identity in that way. The other piece of that is that the infection rate right now, according to the governor, would only shut us down in school and make us all go virtually if that rate gets above 9%.
Right. That well said. I would add to that. Imagine so we're going to be in a hybrid schedule unless something changes the next 4 weeks, right? So when you're in your English class in school 2 days a week, it's going to be you and about 11 other people spread out in the room, right? So you're not going to have some kid behind you like coughing on you, okay?
Oh.
You're going to have masks on and spread out. So to your question, if somebody in the corner of the room has a symptom, right, that could be related to COVID-19, they're going to get sent to the nurse's office or raise their hands. Can I go to the nurse's office? The nurse is going to evaluate them. If through the nurse's evaluation, they do think there could be a possible symptom of the virus, they'll be isolated, put into an isolated room. Parent will be called. They'll be picked up. So it's minimizing contact, right? And then, as Mrs. Kyle just said, they'll go through the process, work with the health department. Because of HIPAA regulation and laws, we're not going to, the school can't weigh into information about, oh, I heard so-and-so has COVID, right? So it'll be handled. There's a plan. There is a plan for, in general, families should know there's a plan for that. And because people will be spaced and masked, somebody could have the virus and not spread it, even though they're walking around school for half a day. No, I say that I'm not a infection specialist, but knowing that the school is planning for, we're minimizing density in the school. So again, half the population is going to be here at a given time, if not less. We're going to be spread out. We're going to be masked. We have protocols in place if somebody is symptomatic. I would guess that a lot of people, anytime you have a headache or a cough, everybody's kind of anxious right now. Oh my God, do I have COVID? So there's going to be probably a lot of that in the first week where I think I might have something, and then we'll go through the process in a calm manner and then identify any potential cases and then work with the Monroe County Health Department on next steps and protocols, because every school, no school is kind of doing things in isolation on their own. It's working with Monroe County health officials, professionals, and coordinating with other schools on, hey, what are schools doing for those things? So that was a long-winded answer, but that's a great question that I know whoever might listen to this podcast, if they're, that's probably the only reason they tuned in is to ask some of those important questions right now.
What about like the sports or homecoming or like all like the pep rally and that stuff? Has that gotten pushed back or canceled?
Yeah, the only thing I know is from New York State is the fall season is pushed back to September 21st, I think is the specific date. So I couldn't give you definitives. All I know is that the fall season has not been canceled. It's been pushed back. Homecoming, as we knew it, I'm not making any district announcements right now, but it's very unlikely we're going to have a homecoming celebration with 5,000 people around the bonfire like we've been doing the last 5 years. And that pains me to say that because I've been in the middle of planning all of that. So, but I do think we have to work together to think creatively to how can we create community and spirit or in a different setting, I'm just spitballing, and I would ask students, I would ask staff the same question. Maybe we do like a virtual sports competition, staff versus students, and you got whatever the hot video game sports games are, we could have competitions that way in Spirit Week around that. It's weird, it's different, but sorry, kind of go ahead.
I was saying just like find a way to get kids involved because we haven't been doing anything in the past couple of months. So any way that the staff can get kids that aren't in sports involved or just people that are in sports, I think that would really be big for the school. Absolutely.
Agreed. 100%. Mrs. Kyle, anything else? I've been monopolizing the conversation here. I don't want to do that.
No, I think you touched on all of it. Morgan, I know that you lost your spring season, so finding any way to especially involve like our spring athletes and our Reserve of the Land classmates, they didn't get to perform their musical, so any opportunity to try and revisit those things is going to be huge. So hopefully we'll be able to get it done.
Yeah,
absolutely. Morgan, Connor, much appreciate your time, your insights here. Any final parting thoughts before we sign off?
No,
not really.
Thank you for talking to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
course.
you.
Yeah, thank you much. All the best. Take care. Raider Nation out there, stay strong. I know these are weird times. We all know these are weird times, but we'll get through it together. Reach out to somebody, anybody, if you have questions, if you need help, whether it's a friend, an adult, staff member here. You know, we're going to get through it together. So on behalf of Mrs. Kyle, Morgan, and Connor, we're signing off. Take care. We'll see you soon, Raider Nation.